Morning, grandkids. I told you when I picked up a few books that I would let you know what I thought about them and whether I was going to read them or not, because I picked up 6 books. Each author is one that I've never read before. So I wanted to try to find me something new. So I'm going to start with these that I'm not. This one is Payment in Blood, which I thought sounded really good, by Elizabeth George. And this is set in England. And if they don't use really rogue, I guess you'd call it, words, that's fine. But when that is started in the beginning and sprinkled throughout the book, because I did glance throughout the book, I just can't read it because I'm a fast reader, and that just takes too much time for me to try and figure out what in the heck they're saying. I'll give you an example. This I particularly dislike. What a boot. Instead of saying what about. Okay? So in England, I don't know if everyday people, or if this is maybe a different class of people that might work in the marketplace or something like that. I don't know, but I can't read that, and it's just sprinkled all through the book, and it takes up my time to figure out what they're saying. Like this one guy says, I told you, I, I told you about my road to Tombs Island. And this other one says, Mary, can I say certain, Sairtin instead of certain, if he's married, not married, but merit. I can't go through that, so I won't be reading that. The next one that I won't be reading is by Christine Freehan, and its title is Waterbound. And this starts out with a girl who's a diver to collect things that she sells at the dock and places to make her living, which that's cool. And I thought, well, I'm going to enjoy that. But she pulls this guy who's just about dead out of the water that she sees down there, drags him back to her car. She lives in a house that she never will let anybody in. She takes him into her home, and for this many pages so far, I couldn't get past it. This many pages. All the rest of the information you get is every other half paragraph or every few sentences. One or the other of them is saying something about sex. And she just struck him out of the water. I can't imagine how the rest of the book goes. So I'm not reading that. It was a good concept of the story, but I don't like that kind of story. And this one is Don't Tell a Soul, which I thought looked like it would be pretty good. And it's by M. William Phelps. But this is a religious family, and they're bringing that into their, and I'm a Christian. It's just that I don't want to get involved in reading a novel that isn't about being Christian. It's just about they happen to be religious and story. And their daughter, who is now missing and had been living in her own is called by the doctors mentally retarded. I don't even know if a doctor nowadays would say that someone's mentally retarded. They would have some other medical term. Anyway, I don't think I'd be interested in them. I just don't think I'd be interested. So I'm not going to read that one. Now, the next three, I am going to read. This one is by Dennis Lehane, and it's called Darkness. Take my hand. Doesn't that sound good? And I read a few pages, and I really am liking it. But I wanted to read you this first page. It's not very long. This is what grabbed me. And this is what I like about a book. If that first opening page or two grabs me, then the book is usually good. If it doesn't grab me, and I try to read on a few more pages and it still doesn't grab me, I don't read the book. Because the whole book's going to be like that. But this one's good. This is at 6:15 p.m. Christmas Eve. 3 days ago, on the first official night of winter, the guy that I grew up with, Eddie Brewer, was one of 4 people shot in a convenience store. Robbery was not a motive. The shooter, James Fahey, had recently broken up with his girlfriend, Laura Stiles, who is a cashier on the 4 to 12 shift. At 11:15, as Eddie Brewer filled a styrofoam cup with ice and Sprite, James Fahey walked through the door. He shot Laura Stiles once in the face and twice in the heart. Then he shot Eddie Brewer once in the head and walked down the frozen food aisle and found an elderly Vietnamese couple huddling in the dairy section hiding. 2 bullets each for them, and James Fahey decided his work was complete. He walked out to his car, sat behind the wheel, and taped the restraining order Laura Stiles and her family had successfully filed against him to the rearview mirror. Then he tied one of Laura's bras around his head, took a pull from a bottle of Jack Daniels, and fired a bullet into his mouth. Now that's a pretty cool beginning, don't you think? So I'm going to read this one. And then there's this big. The author is Barry Eisler, E-I-S-L-E-R. And the name of the book is Fault Line. I found it interesting because it's not your typical content. It's about technology and intrigue going on with some of the men in there. Not good. And I love the opening line. The last thing Richard Hillsaway thought before the bullet entered his brain was, things are really looking up. I love that sentence. So I'm definitely reading that one. And the one I started with first that I'm reading right now is by Kat Martin. And the title is The Deception. And it's a maximum security novel. So there's going to be several other books with different stories handled by this maximum security agency. Let's see what I wrote. It has a good beginning at a morgue, where a lady comes to the morgue to view the body of her long missing sister, who used to be beautiful and pretty and intelligent. Everybody liked her at school. And then at the age of 16, she ran away and she became a prostitute. And she is in very, very poor condition when she was murdered. The police don't want to do too much about it because they think she's just a prostitute, who cares? But of course her sister cares. And she has hired a private investigator to find out why. So that's the one that I'm reading. So there you have my new books by different authors that I've never tried before. And out of the 6, 3 I'm going to read. So I'll talk to you another time when I have something to chat about. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again later. Bye-bye, kids.